Hey guys, welcome back to a different episode. Not what you would typically expect from us, but we are Mindful BS. I'm Shawnee,
And I'm Bianca.
and we honestly just could not wait for our normal episode to have this discussion. So we are going to jump right in. If you do listen to our podcast, you know that recently we shared. Actually, you didn't. I don't even think you mentioned that you were watching it because I think you started watching after.
I
So
did.
I shared on the podcast episode that I had just started watching this show called Paradise on Hulu. Now, Hulu made some other decisions recently about shows that they're not bringing back, but we're gonna let them pass on that one because Paradise is good, and we want to talk about it. We want to get all into it, specifically episode 4.
Right.
Now, unfortunately, there are already 4 episodes of the show, and we are not going back to give you guys an in-depth review of episodes 1, 2, and 3. However, I do think that there is information that you kind of need to know so that you can follow along for episode 4. Do you agree?
I agree.
Okay. So before we talk about episode 4, we should probably let them know what has happened thus far.
Yeah.
Bam. Episode 1, for me, the biggest thing that happened, president is dead.
Yeah. President's dead. And it's like President's dead. And it's just the whole vibe after he's dead. You know what I'm saying? Like, even when he finds him and how he doesn't just like immediately, call the people. I'm like, don't you find that suspicious?
So the show opens up with who I'm going to call the main character, but this is definitely one of those shows that kind of has like an ensemble cast where there are several people where we really dive into their lives, their backstories. There's a story. So we're going to start off with Xavier. I'm going to say he's like the main character. He's played by Sterling K. Brown. He
Love
is the
some
lead
Sterling.
agent, huh?
Love me some Sterling.
He's the lead agent on the president's detail.
Mhm.
So the show opens up. He's doing his 1, 2. He's going to check in for work, which is obviously checking on the president. That's when he discovers him dead. Like Bianca just mentioned, he did not immediately call for backup services. He said, "Hey, in 30 minutes, I need you to do XYZ, but give me like 30 minutes or something." He kind of does his own snooping around, grabbing his own evidence, noticing things, trying to put the pieces together, right? Now, other agents that are notable, since we're talking about agents, we have Billy Pace.
Mhm.
Billy was outside of the president's home, I believe, the morning that he was found dead. And then we also, I don't know who the guy that was watching the surveillance. I apologize, I didn't get his name. And we also have Jane. Jane is another agent. She's newer, younger, bright eyed, kind of
It's very innocent vibes. Like she
very
gets
innocent.
very green, very eager, very ready to do it. Like, let's go. Give me the assignment, Jane.
That's Jane. So that's honestly what we figure out in episode 1. And it kind of ends with like this sign and them saying something about Dawn being at a different time. And it's like, what? What do you mean? Dawn's at a different time. And we get into episode 2. Episode 2, we get introduced more to the character. Well, to be fair, Sinatra popped up in episode 1.
Yeah.
Xavier recalled seeing a conversation with the president and Sinatra that appeared to be heated, but we really didn't learn any more about Sinatra. Honestly, y'all, I apologize because they be calling her Sinatra. I don't even really know what her like real. I forgot what her real name is. Do you remember?
No, I thought Sinatra.
No,
She's Sinatra.
she just Sinatra. Okay, so backstory on Sinatra. Sinatra is a wife and a mother. We get a little bit of backstory on her. I believe that was episode 2, where we find out she had 2 children. She out with her family. Out of nowhere, her son like collapses or something. He's like riding a horse and he collapsed. Turns out he's very, very sick. She did everything that she could to try to keep him alive. She also had a lot of money. She's pitched an idea to somebody, like a big tech idea, if I recall correctly. She got a lot of money for that. So when I say that she tried to keep her son alive, I mean she's flying in experts from all over. She's paying to keep him on life support. Eventually, they're like, "Yo, there's no better way for, like, this is horrible news regardless, but your son's not going to
Oh,
survive this. That is in itself is a whole process. She get matched up to a therapist. That therapist is going to be important later on. But moral of the story is she loses a child. She is grieving.
yeah.
And she's at the point where she just doesn't want to lose her second child, which was her daughter. And at this point, she's kind of spiraling. If I'm keeping it real, she kind of spiraling. You know, in my personal opinion, she very much started to get deep into the how I need to do everything I can to protect the child that I have because I don't want to go through that again.
Yeah.
She catches wind that, because of all of this climate issue and the way people are treating the world, that is pretty much going to come to a catastrophic end in X amount of years. She goes to this random lecture. This guy is saying this. She believes it. She's like, what do you mean? Like, how do I prevent it? I can't let this happen. Because again, in her head, she just focused on doing whatever she can to protect her child. Did we also discover that in episode 2 that that's when she asked that scientist to come out and was like, what would you say if I told you I needed you to build me basically like an entire
Right.
world, but
He said it was
underground?
impossible. We couldn't do that. I would tell you basically like you crazy. And she like, no, well, this is what I want done.
She literally flies this man to the site that she's already invested tons of money in. We see helicopters and military vehicles and all
Yeah.
types of stuff. Like, she already got this in the works to build this
And then she
underground
tell
world.
them like, build my city.
Yep, literally, and walked away because
Mm-hmm.
again, she's like built like she got billions of dollars. Okay, so that's what we learned about Sinatra, I believe, in episode 2, and we are introduced to this idea that there is this city underground that at the time we just feel like she's preparing for. Um, I feel like over the course of episode 3, we finally come to realize that they are the world that we were just introduced into the show is literally this underground city that they're living in.
Right. So I'm going into this show on the basis that this is just like a political drama. But not only is it a political drama, but now we dealing with like a apocalypse
Mm-hmm.
as well.
Yep. So we now know that they live in this underground city. Sinatra again is the one who's kind of at the head of everything because this entire world was her brainchild. From
Yeah.
when old boy said everything is going to come crashing down, get prepared now. She put this in the works. What we know about the city, there are 25,000 people down there,
Hand selected individually.
hand selected.
Profile.
Yes. Now, when I mentioned that therapist that she had, again, she went through a lot of grieving. At first, she didn't want to use the therapist or psychiatrist. I can't remember exactly what her title was. Eventually, she came along to working with her to help her overcome her grievance. She pretty much got to the point where, like, I'm going to be sad forever, but I at least need to be functional for this child that I have. So, of course, throughout this process, her and this therapist, Gabriella is her name in the show, they've become very close. Like, I feel like if there's anybody in the world that Sinatra trust, it's Gabriella. And she personally brought in Gabriella to help select the 25,000 people to help make this world feel as real as it possibly can because these people are now living here permanently.
Yeah.
So yes, so that kind of gets us through episode 3. But the one thing we have to point out at the end of episode 3, like we said, President dies in episode 1. Episodes 2 and 3, we're uncovering all of this about Sinatra, about the world, about Gabriella. We're seeing this relationship with Billy and Jane. We find out that Billy and Jane, the other 2 agents on the president's detail, have actually been dating and seeing each other. And he's basically
In
really
love with
like
her.
falling in love with her. It is also revealed to us that uh, Xavier's wife did not make it to the world. She was supposed to come for whatever reason. She did not make it on the airplane. She did not make the flight when when everything happened in the normal world and they had to leave and evacuate to the underground world, his wife did not make it. So he's been down there with his two children, pretty much just alone, raising them. So in the process of all of this stuff, Gabriella kind of draws close to Xavier because she reveals to him in episode 3 that the president kind of implied that Billy was a dangerous man. And it's kind of given, if something ever happened to me, check out Billy because
Yeah.
he's a dangerous man. There's a lot more that happened in episodes 1, 2, and 3. It's just entirely too much for us to get into. So please, 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 highly recommend, if you have not, go back and watch that, because now we're about to get to episode 4 and Bianca.
I know. Episode 4 was so crazy. So we talked, Shani did a lot of talk about Billy, the agent. So like she was saying in those previous episodes, we get a lot of backstory individually about the important people within the show. Billy is important because Shani notated that he was also outside the house the day the president got murdered, and
Yes.
also that the psychiatrist specifically said the president left me this message to let you know that Billy is dangerous. So the episode already started off giving us creepy vibes because Billy, who we know and trust, he's watching the daughter. Shani just mentioned that he has two children. The daughter is like a teenager, and he's sitting outside the house and he's like watching her watch, like wait for her dad to come home. And it just gives creepy vibes
It
because it's
gives very
supposed to be
creepy
like
vibes.
their uncle. So it just is like, why is he doing that? Then when we get his backstory, it's like, oh shit, this nigga is a dangerous man. Like,
Literally, the opening scene is like a young Billy with his uncle. He's about to shoot something. His dog runs off and distracts him. So his uncle hits Billy in the face, calls him worthless, and then later tells him he has to kill the dog.
yes,
Billy is like hesitant because, again, this is his dog, probably his only friend. His uncle clearly gives abusive vibes, kills his uncle,
yeah.
gets sent to juvie. We see him fighting and stuff in there, gets out of juvie, gets recruited by this government mercenary group. We see him do more violent stuff there. Like, it's just giving, the backstory of Billy is giving abuse, violence,
I
anger.
don't care. It don't
Yes.
matter. It can go down any whatever. Even the scene where we see him on his mission from Sinatra, when they're basically trying to conceal the condition of the outside world, because now she done got these people used to living down there. She don't want them to know that it's actually maybe okay up there because she on her power trip. So she got Billy on this mission and he's just out there being ruthless. So I'm just like, well, I don't know.
Well, see, let's get into that though. Now, Bianca mentioned that Billy went out into the real world. We're just gonna say like Earth. Let's give these things terms. What can we call the world that they left? Like,
I mean, I
we need a
would
name.
the normal world, and now they live in like a cave because they be calling it a cave.
So
So
okay, so we're gonna call the other one the cave. So if we say like they go out in the world, that's
that's the
outside
world.
of the cave.
And
Okay,
then
bet.
their little community is the cave.
So I want to point out something though, because episode 4, like we said, it starts off with Billy like in the car looking up at Presley, which is the daughter, and it was weird, but then it immediately goes into Billy's backstory. This episode jumped around, it did a lot of timeline hopping.
Yeah.
So this one was one that you really had to pay attention, because 1 minute we'd be in the past, then it'd be present, then it'd be like the not so distant past, then back to the present. And one thing that I didn't notice, I went back and watched this episode twice. One thing that I didn't notice the first time, that I didn't catch the first time, was that they had went back to a time when the president was alive and they were sitting at that bar. And they pretty much were asking the president, like basically kind of questioning him, like on if people could have survived like whatever happened. And the president like, no, trust me, we have no communication with them. Like, that's it. Like, and if anybody did survive, they're out there starving, like barely what's naming. And you could kind of tell for Billy and Xavier that it was like, because first you're saying no, nobody could have survived, but now you're saying if
And
people did, it's
yeah,
just not ideal conditions. And Billy and Xavier were like, that's the issue. Like a lot of us, it's the uncertainty that has a lot of us like uncomfortable with being down here because we just really don't
don't
know.
know. Mhm.
Right. And honestly, if I have to guess, I'm going to assume that Sinatra never wanted them to go out there, but that the president kind of took that moment because you could kind of tell that the president was definitely trying. The president was a messed up man, but I do feel like he was at least trying to be for the people.
He
So I
was.
would not be surprised if the president pushed for that because then it hops from them having a conversation in a bar to the president later on being on stage on TV saying like, we're all feeling uncomfortable down here. We're going to send up some scientists to go explore and see what the conditions are like. And that is in, like Bianca said, it hops to the future. And we find out that Sinatra sent Billy
Mhm.
to kill the science. Like, let's keep it real. I feel like she sent him up there
To kill the
to
scientist.
kill the scientist because she didn't want to know. Like, Billy literally said at the end of the episode, you sent me, I did what you wanted me to do, but you want to keep people down here in fear and afraid. And she was like, no, don't you understand? Like, this is the ideal life. Like, that's not the life. And I'm trying to just protect the people down here.
Yeah.
My question for you, what are your thoughts on Sinatra?
I mean, I think she's a power hungry bitch. I
Okay, okay.
mean, yeah, and she just her and she turning her into power and she'll do anything necessary to keep it.
I agree with you. She's definitely like an egomaniac
Yeah,
at this point. It's actually kind of sad. Now, when Gabriella told Xavier that the president said Billy was a dangerous man, obviously he started investigating Billy. He started reading his files, snooping around. At some point, he just pulls Billy to the side and Loki just confronts him at the carnival.
right.
And Billy's like, no, that's not me. I never did that. Like, that's not me. And I need you to trust me on that one. What I also thought was interesting, though, is that another agent who is above all of them, Robinson,
Mhm.
that's the black lady, right?
Yes.
That actually was sleeping with the
Sleeping.
president, but
I'm about to say was sleeping with the president.
that's a whole nother story. But at one point when they're at the carnival, Robinson pulls Billy to the side and she's like, I need to talk to you. Your boy Xavier is on Sinatra's radar, and nobody wants to be on Sinatra's radar.
Mhm.
So, with that being said, that's important because Sinatra, pretty much like Bianca is saying, anything and anyone that gets in Sinatra's way, it's almost like an instant, oh, you can go because
Gotta
I'm in
go.
control
Right.
of this. Yeah, like
Exactly.
this is my rodeo. I run the show. You can go. So that happened. She pulls Billy aside to talk. I don't think we got that conversation.
No,
If we
but
did,
it
it
looks
wasn't in detail.
fishy because she put it's like Sinatra, Billy, and the therapist all meeting up, and when Xavier finally peep them, they all immediately scatter. So it's like, what y'all got going on?
What's being said.
Yeah,
So I want to point that out because that actually happened before, if I'm not mistaken, that happened before Xavier pulled Billy to the side and talked to him. And
yeah,
that's when Billy's like, listen, I don't know what they're feeding you, but I'm telling you, I had nothing to do with the president dying,
yeah.
point blank and period. Which I don't know, because like a part of me wants to believe Gabriella, right? But
But like why would she pull that out of thin air? But also, I don't know because she is cool with Sinatra though.
exactly. And the whole point of her being there is to kind of control the psychology of people. And I could see possibly Sinatra manipulating Gabriella to get other people to do what she ultimately wants them to do. Does that make sense? Like
Yeah.
I could almost see like Gabriella feeling like she's helping, but Sinatra technically still kind of being the puppet master.
On the strings. Yeah.
Yeah, and pulling the strings, and Gabriella isn't even aware that she's actually falling right into Sinatra's plan.
Yeah, I can see that too. I can see that too. But the way they
Long,
just gave twists and turns, who knows? Because I mean, I be thinking one thing and boom, the show be like, "Oh, you didn't see
yeah.
that coming."
So when that happens, Billy ends up leaving. Where did they go? I the carnival ended. I think Xavier and the kids went home. Billy like stopped by or something to like talk to Xavier and like spend some time with the kids. And he's like, "Hey, I have to tell you something about my past." Which this also came up earlier in the episode, like, and in the past, like Billy kind of alluding to the fact that his history is not the best. But again, they're in the cave now, which the your life that you had before that, it doesn't matter
It
because
doesn't
this is
even
like a
matter.
fresh beginning. So there were a lot of things like we just told y'all about him being in juvie and killing his uncle and being a mercenary. Xavier did not have all of that information prior to like the president dying and him like doing his own research or whatever. And even when he was like snooping in his files, Xavier still didn't tell Billy that he saw that information. But it
Right.
was given to the point that Billy, because it seemed like Billy felt like he was kind of being framed for something he didn't do, it seemed like Billy was going to reveal to Xavier everything that he knew about Sinatra, reveal to Xavier everything about him and his past, all of that. But Billy says, I just want to be Uncle Billy for one more night. Let's talk about it in the morning, right? Billy leaves. He pulls up on Sinatra. This is where he confronts her. He's saying, like, I've done everything you wanted me to do up until now, but enough is enough, pretty much. He letting her know, like, Xavier and the kids, like, that's my family. Don't fuck with my family. I mean, that was really. Did you take anything else from that? Because that was the message I
Oh,
got.
that was the conversation. I heard he on your radar. Do not play with me. Do not play with my family. And I'm on whatever. That's what he said.
And Sinatra said, "Oh, you walked into my office without an appointment, trying to give me orders? Because the last time I checked, I was the one that gave orders, and you were the one that took them and did what I told you to do."
Right, because she run this, because it's her place, is what she said.
And then, you know where I really thought Billy messed up at? Because in that whole scene where he like barged into her office and they're having this conversation, at one point Sinatra says, Billy calls her a monster. She says, I'm not a monster, Billy. I'm a wife. I'm a mom. Did I ever tell you the story about my son? Now, we told y'all she lost that son. That changed her. And
Mm.
you will really have to watch those episodes to understand how deep and how much she cared about her son. Billy said, I don't give a fuck about your son. And
Yeah.
that's if you rewatch that scene, they actually like they even play like a dip. It was like a boom boom with the music and everything. Like the entire, I promise you, go back and watch that scene, y'all. The entire tone of Sinatra and the tone of that scene changed when he said he did not care what she had to say about her son. And
Yeah.
I really feel like that's where he messed up. Because after that, it was like, oh, not only did you come in here giving me orders, you don't care about me or the story that I wanted to tell you about my son and why we're even down here anyway.
Yeah.
And then you telling me leave your family alone, but if I feel like your family's a threat, then they gotta go.
Yeah.
And she basically told him that. She basically said, "You do you think you were the only killer that I brought down here just in case?"
Mhm. Because when the psychiatrist was giving Xavier her little soliloquy about how she was picking people, it's basically she was like, I was unsure about you. You were my wild card, but I wanted to pick somebody who I knew was always going to do the right thing. So then we got concepts of, people who are going to do the right thing. We got concepts of we need scientists down here. We need coroners down here. We need even the president was the first person who had ever died. So even the coroner, like, I'm a little rusty because I mean, I'm
Mm-hmm.
down here, but I haven't, there has been nobody for me to do this on. So, like, everybody had a particular role. So we even already said she used him on a mission to kill the scientist, but she was like, you think you the only killer I brought down here? Good question, because I mean, in theory, if Shani, like Shani said, Gabriella's supposed to be keeping the psychiatric temperature down here good. In theory, will we even need killers down there?
Killers for
Yes,
him.
Sinatra said, yes, ma'am, we actually do. And not one, but we need a few.
Yeah. And Billy pretty much was like, "Are you threatening me? Because if so, you better bring your biggest, baddest mother effer." And you guys, the ending of this episode, I ain't gonna hold you. It really messed me up.
It messed me up too.
It really messed me up. Billy started because this is what I can say that I loved about the writing of this episode. This episode took me through a lot of emotions when it came to the character of Billy Pace.
Yeah,
When it started, I thought he was weird, creepy, and suspicious. When I saw the abuse and everything that he went through, I almost empathized with him because I could see how
that
you could
messed
end
him
up
up.
being yeah, how that could harden you, honestly.
Yeah.
Then when we get a little more clips of him, we see him with Jane and see him interact with her, and we see him starting to feel and soften and like allow love in. I'm like, oh my gosh, like he is becoming a better person. And by the end of the episode, when you see him run into that office and defend Xavier and Presley, ooh, excuse me, um, and the kids, I was rooting for Billy.
Yeah.
Like I was like, oh no, like Billy, he's solid. And at one point, Xavier, after talking to Billy, Xavier went back and told Gabriella it's not him. And
Yeah.
Gabriella's like, well, why would the president tell me that? And she's like, I don't know, but it's
I'm
not
like,
Billy.
it's not him. Yeah.
Yeah, like he and again, as Gabriella alluded and as I told Bianca, like if Xavier says something, I trust him because he just seems like the type of person where his intuition is right. You know what I mean? And
Because
he's
he
thinking
literally, the
clearly.
way we didn't see him analyze stuff throughout the show, it make you feel like, yeah, like he would know.
Yes, and he's always going to do the right thing, like Bianca just mentioned before too. So by towards the end of the episode, as a viewer, you're like, all right, nah, it's not Billy, and like Billy's one of the good ones. Like you can trust Billy, like I can stick beside Billy. But you guys, that was probably the biggest plot twist of all because Billy leaves, he goes home. Like we said, he's been dating the other agent, Jane, the bright-eyed, innocent-looking agent that was newer on the president's detail. He sits in. It's looking like he's just looking ready. He's ready to relax. She's sitting at the table already eating. He comes and sit down next to her and just is like, oh my gosh, like basically kind of just giving like, damn, it's been a wild day and I'm happy to be home. That was the vibe at that moment. I'm happy to be home. That man started eating and he was starting to talk to her. And then before you know it, he falls all out the chair, choking, sound like he's literally like suffocating on his own breath. We
Yeah.
see Jane sitting there calmly, continuing to eat. At this point, Billy stretched out, stretching his. Jane gets up. She pulls out a pill bottle, slides pills across the table, which we can see that she's attempting to set this up like it's an overdose. She slowly leans down to Billy and says, you told her to bring her biggest, baddest motherfucker. Well, baby, that's me.
Tragic.
And the scene ends. Billy on the floor, dying, murdered. by his lover.
Yeah, that was crazy. I was so sad about that. But
That's it.
no, yeah, because I mean, we already said it was shocking. I just couldn't believe it because Jane, she was definitely giving like girl next door vibes. Like I didn't even see it coming. Oh, wasn't it funny when Robinson, because she had wore that dress to the carnival, and Robinson was like, "What the fuck do you got on?"
Yes. And she was like, my carnival fit. I'm off duty. I'm off duty.
I'm off duty, you know.
Yeah, like a white camisole.
A little lacy, little short
I honestly didn't even like she actually looked kind of different at the
at the
carnival.
carnival. Yeah.
Yeah, she did. Yeah. So that was episode 4.
Yeah. So I say all that to say off to a great start, right? Like, and there's still so much more to unpack because we get a little preview. And I don't feel like we mentioned, but Xavier, although not guilty or suspect, we do find out that him and the president, something happened that
Mm-hmm.
made that he was angry with the president. Like when we first see in the first couple episodes, we can see them developing their relationship.
He
But then
took a bullet for the president.
he did. He took
Yeah.
a bullet for him. And that's what got him upgraded to special privileges where he had access to like this special iPad that was the president. Like him and the president was like this. But then we also see that something had happened that put a rift in their relationship and he was being very cold to the president before he died, where he even had said, like, I'll forgive you basically when you're dead.
When
Or,
you're dead. Yeah.
yeah.
And that has not been revealed.
And that
Now,
has,
another,
yeah.
yeah. Another thing to point out, when the president died, it was in his home, but that iPad, that the tablet, because I don't know exactly what type of
Yeah.
tablet it's missing. And that is something that I don't know who has it. I don't know if Sinatra has it and she's faking like she doesn't, you know what I mean? Just to be like, we need to find it. But that is something that's missing that the people are saying we need to get back because that allegedly holds all of the top secret
Top
security
secret
stuff for,
information. Yeah.
the cave world. Um, so there
And
is
also,
that.
the people have been told that the president died of natural causes. They are not aware that the president has been murdered and that they're actually investigating and trying to figure out who actually murdered the president.
This is true. Which also makes me feel like there Sinatra's on a slippery slope for, even if she didn't order the hit on the president, which I personally do think she's behind that. Could be wrong, but I think she is behind it as of right now, based on what we know. I do think she needs to be careful because now we have a second person that's down there that
Yeah.
has died. They're framing it to be an overdose, but like, what are the odds that the president dies of natural causes? And
And
then
now,
somebody on his security detail overdoses. You get what I'm saying? I just feel like it's about to go into straight chaos.
agreed. Agreed. But
Yeah.
we'll see.
Okay. Well, that is episode 4 of Paradise with a very brief overview of the 3 episodes prior. New episodes drop on Hulu Monday nights
Yeah.
or Tuesday morning. Real technically Tuesday at 12 a.m.
Yeah.
It's available to stream. So we will be back as soon as episode 5 drops. Get caught up, tune in, and let us know what you think.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.